Ohio State is no stranger to being a part of conference realignment, as this is not the first time the Big Ten has added schools to the conference. However, this time it hits a little bit different when you're going all the way out west to add schools in Southern California. How does the Big Ten adding USC and UCLA impact the Buckeyes? I'll tell you right here, only on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, July 6th in the year 2022, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we will look at different aspects about how the Big Ten adding USC and UCLA impacts your Ohio State Buckeyes. This move going all the way out west was unprecedented, not unthought about because somebody had to think about it for it to happen, but it was different. I mean, we have seen the Ohio State be in the Big Ten Conference when the Big Ten added Penn State, when the Big Ten added Nebraska, when the Big Ten added Rutgers and Maryland. We have been a part of, not say we, but the school Ohio State has been a part of conference realignment in different decades. So this is not something that is different for them. But adding schools in Southern California hit a little bit different. California is a fun place to be. I have been there once. I want to go back. I was actually in Southern California for Christmas one year when I was in middle school. So I don't know all about that area, but I know that their way of living and their lifestyle is different than those people in the Midwest. USC and UCLA, you might say, well, Jay, USC is not good at football. UCLA is not good either. One thing I will tell you is this. These two schools coming to the Big Ten, they add a level of competition every single year that is going to make the Big Ten a completely better product on the football field. We'll talk more about basketball, the Olympic sports later on in the show, but on the football field itself, this makes the conference, this makes the competition Ohio State is going to see every single year a whole lot better. People may say, well, USC is not that good, man. I mean, I know they got that Trojan. I know they play in LA Coliseum. I know they play in this amazing arena and stadium, a stadium that's going to host the Olympics coming up in 2028, I believe, for the third time. Let that sink in for you. Yeah, USC plays out there. Oh, then you got UCLA. They're playing in the Rose Bowl. Yes, the Rose Bowl game is played in the Rose Bowl Stadium, which is the home to UCLA. So you're not just going to get better competition, but you're also going to be playing in prestigious, amazing venues. Ohio State going out west probably twice a year, if not twice a year, 2 times every 3 years, assuming the Big Ten eliminates divisions and finds some way to do a pod system to schedule teams. So you're playing teams at least once every 4 years, if not once every year, depending on if they're in your pod or not. I think this level of competition that the Buckeyes are going to face is going to drastically help them. I mean, it's going to drastically help their preparation. You're going to be playing teams that they're not playing a traditional Big Ten style of football, but they're going to be playing a brand of football and playing football that is really, really good, and it will help you for the playoff and things to come at the end of the season. We're going to get a matchup at some point in time between Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley. Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. You may say, Jay, Chip Kelly's not a good coach right now. Well, I beg to differ. I absolutely think Chip Kelly is a good football coach, and getting that matchup literally multiple times in a 5-year span, that's going to make you a better football team. Many of you will remember the last time a Lincoln Riley coach team, came to the Shoe, and then when the Buckeyes played them over there in Oklahoma. You may say, well, Jay, we've seen it before. Will it be different than the last time? We'll have to wait and see. To be determined. I'm not going to say what it's going to be because I know USC right now, if they played Ohio State, the Buckeyes would win. But when they play in the future, things could be a whole lot different. But this is going to bring a level of competition that I do believe everybody's going to look at and say, well, the Big Ten just got stronger as a conference by adding these two West Coast teams. Now, with competition, you got to factor in the travel. I've talked about this previously. The travel is going to be one thing. I think it's going to hit the other sports a little bit different than the football. Because I think the Big Ten schedulers and people that are in charge of scheduling games, they're going to try to make sure that the cross-country travel, not only for USC and UCLA, but also for the Buckeyes, it doesn't get outrageous and crazy and mentally taxing and taxing on your body. I think they have thought, well, maybe they didn't think it through. They're going to have to before they put the schedule together. They're going to realize if you're going to take back-to-back trips to LA in the same week or back-to-back weeks, it's going to really mess you up. But it's going to bring a level of competition, and I'm here for it. I mean, I am here for the Big Ten getting stronger. I'm here for Ohio State now having to play teams like Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, Indiana. I mean, some of these schools, Rutgers, Maryland, some of these schools are bad, man. I mean, some of these schools in the Big Ten are absolutely downright bad. They have some good football players. But one of the downfalls of Ohio State once they get to the playoffs sometimes is they're not really getting tested much during the Big Ten regular season at all. They're not. Think about 2019. Now, granted, you may say, well, Jay, they ran through everybody. Yeah, but the competition they were playing was not that good at all. I believe there was a year that Ohio State put up 70 points, I want to say, against Maryland. It was something really, really bad. Because I remember Marcus Crawley had like 80 rushing yards, 8 carries. I had a touchdown in that game. And I remember that game because I was like, man, this kid's going to be good in a few years at some point. Unfortunately, medical retire is what's going to be next to his name as he leaves the Buckeye football program. But it's going to bring different competition, better competition. And honestly, I'm here for it, but also recognizable competition. You look out, you know the brand USC. You know the brand UCLA. You know that weight that it holds. If you don't know the weight that it holds, you're going to find out really, really quickly. I am here for these types of moves for the Big Ten. It seemed crazy when it happened. But as reality sets in, realize the Buckeyes can't really take games off. Yeah, non-conference games, there's going to be a couple non-conference games that are going to be duds. I know in a couple years, there's only going to be one because they play, I believe, Texas and Washington in the same season. Oh, by the way, I have also read that it doesn't look like the Big Ten is going to move forward with Washington leaving the Pac-12 and going to the Big Ten. Probably going to be Notre Dame if another school comes to the conference. We'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show because I know some of you have interesting thoughts and feelings about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But adding competition, isn't that what you want? Don't you want to be better prepared for the playoff and for the Big Ten Conference Championship game and things of that nature? Absolutely. And adding USC and UCLA does that and helps you accomplish that goal. Coming up next, another way this move by the Big Ten helps Ohio State and helps and impacts the Buckeyes. Trust me, you guys don't want to miss this. This is going to be a fun time right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? Is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer. Choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry, you have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. The Buckeyes adding competition, the Big Ten adding competition to the conference, adding to schools that are going to bring a lot to the conference, is going to have an impact on Ohio State. We already talked about the impact for the competition aspect of it. But what's another way that this directly impacts the football team? I literally have four more different things. I'm not going to go through all of them. I could have had a list of more things, but it makes a conference a more reputable conference. Now you say, Jay, we already talked about this a little bit with how it better prepares Ohio State for the conference championship game and for the playoff, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. What is one of the knocks about the Big Ten? And I think it's a knock of yours about the Big Ten as Ohio State is playing in this conference that they're seemingly dominating. Yes, we can say the Buckeyes have somewhat dominated the conference for quite a while. The knock on the conference is weak. The knock on this is still a football conversation, but the knock on the conference is there's really no competition. Okay, let's list some schools here for you. I'm going to go, and you're just going to realize this conference ain't that good. Nebraska, not good. Iowa, 8-10 win school, 8-4, 9-3, probably their sweet spot, but still not really that type of school. Wisconsin can be, but hasn't been in a while. They don't even have a good quarterback. Not really that type of school. Michigan State can be, had a really good year last year, coming off a bad year in 2020, but can they be consistent? That's a question. Michigan, Harbaugh, man. What are you guys doing in recruiting? I'm going to leave it at that. Maryland, not good. Rutgers, not good. Illinois, not good. Northwestern, not good. Indiana, not good. Purdue, okay, sometimes, but they're not good. One thing USC and UCLA does, which has a direct impact on the Buckeyes, is it's going to make the conference a more reputable and respected conference around college football. Because as it stands right now, your best conference, you guys may hate me for this, but I really don't care, is the SEC. Outside of that, number two is the Big Ten. But then you have the ACC. You might say the Big 12 is tied with the ACC, but what is that? Like the Big 12, they play good football in the Big 12, but they don't come close to the SEC. And how many times have you seen a Big 12 team in the national championship game in the playoff era? Yeah, it's been that long. Then you got the Pac-12 out there. It's really just kind of about to implode and not really be a conference like it. It's going to be less than 10 schools here very, very soon, as it looks like the Big 12 might be adding 6 Pac-12 schools to their conference very, very soon. Yeah, things are getting crazy. And as I lay all that out, you're quickly seeing, well, I'm laying off numerous schools. Nebraska bad, Indiana bad, Purdue bad, Illinois bad, Northwestern bad, Rutgers bad, Maryland bad. That's over half the conference that's bad, buddy. That's not good. But you bring in USC, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be a good football team. You bring in UCLA, they're going to be a good football team. They're already going to be competing with the Buckeyes for conference championships automatically because of the other schools that are maybe average or above average: Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Michigan, I keep forgetting Penn State. All those schools I just mentioned, they're going to be competing with USC and UCLA for conference championships, conference championship game appearances. Assuming that down the road, the Big Ten will eliminate the need for divisions. This is going to make the conference a more respected conference, a more reputable conference. And honestly, I firmly like this move by the Big Ten. Think outside the box. Now, granted, okay. The Big Ten didn't make the, well, they made the move ultimately via a vote. It was voted on. The presidents and chancellors of these schools and the ADs were involved in this decision. But it was a voted upon decision, but it wouldn't have been a voted upon decision if USC and UCLA did not come and knock on the door in Evanston, not literally, but figuratively, and say, hey, we want to hop in with what you guys are doing. Just saying. It makes them a more respected conference. Texas A&M is looked at different because they're in the SEC, not because they are not in the conference they used to be in the Big 12. Same. I mean, they're a good school, good football team. They play good football, but they're looked at different. USC and UCLA playing this competition, they're going to be looked at differently because of their conference. And I do think when it comes down to a playoff situation, I'll talk more about this tomorrow, not just Notre Dame, but also about how I don't know if we're going to get outside of 4 teams in the playoff with the current setup of how conference realignment is going. You might say, Jay, you're crazy. I might be. I probably am. My friends might agree with you. But we might be sticking to 4. It's not a crazy thing to say that or to do so. But in regards to the playoff, you're going to have these brands. And let's just say, hypothetically, we're going to be moving forward with an 8 or 12 or 16-team playoff, which is what was on the table recently. If that's the case, even if it's 4, the committee is going to look at Ohio State differently because you're adding 2 schools to the conference that are going to lift up the level of competition in the conference. The committee is going to look at the Buckeyes differently because they're not only going to be able to play Big Ten football, they played a tougher brand of football. They're able to travel to the West Coast and win, which I do think that travel is going to be a human element that these people on this committee think about and add into what it means to win the Big Ten when the Big Ten is literally going from coast to coast. All of this makes sense. All of this plays into the decision-making and what it means for the Buckeyes to have to play teams like UCLA and USC. Oh, a little side note. I want to say this really quickly. Wasn't planning on doing it, but it kind of really looks at how USC and UCLA have played against the Buckeyes over the years. The series history, this is really impromptu. The series history between the USC and Ohio State's record against the Trojans, 10-13-1. The last game the Buckeyes won was the bowl game. The Buckeyes beat the Trojans in 2017. The Buckeyes' largest margin of victory was 33. The Trojans' largest margin of victory was 39 as they beat the Ohio State 42-3. If you go to the UCLA, they don't have a winning record against them either. 4-4-1. Most recent win, the game and win, the UCLA Bruins beat Ohio State in 2001. They also shut out. Their largest margin of victory was a 17-0 win over the Buckeyes as well. This is going to be something that I do think lifts up the level of competition. And as you see over the years, no matter if it's the Rose Bowl or just regular season games, home and home series, these 2 teams battle out. And these games are a lot tougher than you might think. You know what? It will be a whole lot tougher how this impacts Ohio State's basketball team and the Olympic sports basketball. Oh, buddy, I hope Chris Holtman's ready. I hope you're ready to hear more about how this impacts the Buckeyes right here on Locked on Buckeyes. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, the coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling, buddy, and just listen. They are good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high in protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to built.com right now to make sure you don't miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing. Go to built.com and use that friendly promo code LOCKED15. That is LOCKED15, and you will get 15% off your order. Once again, go to built.com and use that friendly promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at built.com. So we have somewhat been lost in the sauce in regard to how conference realignment, USC and UCLA, impacts the Buckeyes, focusing primarily on football because, 1, football is king. 2, the Buckeyes are a major football brand, really good football team. But also 3, these basketball and the Olympic sports kind of get pushed to the wayside, pushed to the back of the room. Yeah, back of the line. We'll get you when it's time to get to you. This is actually possibly, not want to say bigger than football, just as big may be a thing. Because think about this. UCLA was just went on a crazy run to the NCAA tournament. USC has had 5 guys get drafted in the NBA draft over the past 5 years. They've had guys drafted in the NBA draft over the past 5 years in every single draft, which I think they're only one of 3 schools to do so. If you think about that, and then also think about how Ohio State basketball is, how it's not really the best thing out there. If you put them out on Front Street, they get exposed really quickly. We saw what happened last year. We remember the conversations that you and I had about the basketball team, about Chris Holtmann, about how they would stack up against elite talent, what's lacking on this team. Well, you're going to play teams in Southern California that could hoop, buddy. Like, this is not just a football conversation. This goes over every single sport except for maybe hockey, because I don't believe, I actually don't know if USC and UCLA have a hockey team. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't. So outside of that, that impacts the women and the men on the hockey, on the ice rink. But, buddy, this is going to make the Big Ten basketball season even tougher. And honestly, this might help them be better prepared for the NCAA tournament, as we have quickly seen Ohio State, other schools in the Big Ten, not get out of the first weekend of the tournament because they're not ready for that brand of basketball, buddy. They're just not ready for that at all. I firmly think that with what we have right now with college basketball, you're going to get some. I mean, you have really good coaches. I mean, Mick Cronin, Bo Borowski. I don't really get on the refs on this podcast. I don't really get on the refs at all. I only know Bo Borowski's name because people on the Twitter just put him out there and say his name all the time because they really can't stand him. I try my best to not say things about the refs because, as crazy as the refs can be at times, they don't decide games. You put the ball in the basket more than the other team. The scoreboard would tell you who did that more than the other team. Just plain math, common sense. If I score more than you, I win. No matter what the ref does, it's that simple. It's sports. Don't get wrapped up in the refs. But these 2 teams, they're going to force Ohio State to recruit better, number 1, to coach better, number 2, to be a team that makes better adjustments, number 3, and number 4, they're going to help them be better prepared for the NCAA tournament, which is ultimately the goal. The Buckeyes don't just want to be a team that can win 20 games, but can't get past the first weekend out of the second round. You don't want that. Sweet 16 Elite appearances, Final Four appearances, hopefully possibly a national championship. That is what you play for. That is what you play for. I say possibly because I don't really think they're going to win that anytime soon. But that's what you play for. And adding these 2 schools to the conference helps Ohio State basketball team accomplish that goal. Now, for the Olympic sports and for the other sports, not just your track and field and those types of things, but for all of the other sports that are out there, I think the biggest thing is going to be travel and competition. I mean, volleyball is going to be one of those things with those kids from Southern California playing the Big Ten in volleyball. You think Big Ten volleyball was already good and Ohio State needed to get better? Hello. They need to get a whole lot better, quick, fast, and in a hurry, because these teams for Southern California, they're not going to just come in and walk around and let you just walk all over them. Nope. You have to come quick and be ready for what's to come. Better competition, yes. But I do think that travel element, think about this, so we'll close up shop. I talk all about travel. I think it's a big deal. Think about how many games baseball teams play. And then you're having to go from literally Jersey to Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, over there in Pennsylvania, Ann Arbor, East Lansing, Bloomington, West Lafayette, Evanston, Champaign. You're having to go through all these schools, and all of a sudden, that's where you're used to playing. You got to go 3 time zones away to Southern California to play those kids out there that play year-round, outside year-round, and they don't have to travel around the country. They can play literally right in their hometown and play baseball. Maybe not year-round, but you get what I'm saying. They are doing this stuff year-round. And so they're already probably going to be better prepared. Ohio State just fired their baseball coach. I'm not sure if they've hired a new one just yet, but this is one where it's going to be, hey, buddy, you're coming in, and you have to get these guys ready to play a team in Southern California. Get ready for it. possibly twice a year if the Big Ten makes you go out there to Southern California to play USC and to play UCLA. If the Big Ten is smart, they'll put those series back to back and just say, look, stay in Southern California, play 6 games, get these schools, play them, so be it. You don't have to come back out there anymore. That would be the wisest thing to do, but that might not be what's going to happen. The travel's going to be crazy. 50 games for the USC or for USC, UCLA is going to be crazy for them coming to the East Coast, to the Midwest a lot, for the Buckeyes having to go out there a lot. But ultimately, it makes the conference stronger. It adds better competition for the Buckeyes. And actually, I think this impacts the Olympic sports, impacts the basketball team in a different way than you might think. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now make sure you check out the Locked on Big Ten podcast. Know what your team is up against across the Big Ten with the Locked on Big Ten podcast. Everyday host Nate Dickinson and the local experts of Locked on take you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked on Big Ten your second listen of every single day. That is the Locked on Big Ten podcast, which is just like Locked on Buckeyes, free and available wherever you get your fine podcast.